Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our latest presentation, the Stilo DITA Knowledge Series. I'm Les Burnham, CEO of Stilo, and along with Helen St, our Conversion Services Manager, today we'll provide overviews and demos of tools that we've developed over recent years to help in two important topics that you see on the screen now. One is the automating the conversion of content to DITA, and then optimizing content for consistency and reuse. So there's quite a lot of information to share in the 60 minutes that we have available, and so we'll try to keep moving it along at a fairly rapid pace. As Helen mentioned earlier, we'll be happy to take questions at the end of each, or discuss questions at the end of each session that we're doing today. But please feel free to submit your questions at any point in time using the chat on the WebEx window. So before moving into the detail of the session, let me just, for those of you who don't already know us, tell you a little bit about Stilo. We are basically listed on the London Stock Exchange. We have offices in the UK and in Ottawa. I'm actually speaking today from my UK office. Helen St is based, along with the rest of our technical team, is based in the Ottawa office. And we're essentially tools developers. We provide tools and associated services to structured content solutions. We've been working with XML and HTML technologies for a long time. Some of you may know of our OmniMark content processing or development language, which is actually coming up with V11 this coming year. We've, in recent years, been developing AutoBridge, which is a web-based XML editing tool, and that's been the subject of other webinar presentations of ours recently. But today we're going to be talking about Migrate, our cloud XML content conversion service, and we're going to be talking also about Optimizer, which is our content optimization tool. So we can basically essentially sort of use these tools across all sorts of different flavors or XML standards, but we've been really very much focused on the DITA standard for the last decade or more, with a huge variety of customers in the DITA space. So that's the basis upon which or the context upon which we're actually sort of giving this presentation today. So let me just introduce Migrate first of all. So Migrate, it's a cloud conversion service. We've been developing this now for maybe 10 years or so, and it gets better every year as it becomes more and more sophisticated. It's typically used for converting a range of formats. FrameMaker we do a lot of, Word we do a lot of, Robert Help, InDesign, XML, HTML, HTML. So we do an awful lot of different input formats, and we convert that to DITA. We've to date converted more than 1 million pages of content to DITA, and it's basically typically legacy content conversion. But actually which is important these days, it's being used as well as a tool to facilitate ongoing content conversion, where perhaps subject matter experts in your organization want to continue using Word, and Migrate basically provides a capability to upload Word content and convert to DITA as and when required. So let me move on. When we provide our customers with a Migrate conversion portal, we actually pre-configure that portal. We give them a dedicated portal, and we pre-configure it with conversion rules based upon sample content that you've provided us with. So we can set up a portal to handle basically DITA 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. We can incorporate specializations in that. You can upload single documents. You can upload multiple files as well, and we pre-configure this and basically provide it to you within a few days, generally speaking, of it being required, and you will then be ready to go. In today's presentation, what we're going to do is actually upload a Word document. And push that through the system and show you how that actually works. But basically, once the document is uploaded, we would analyze it, and we would look for particular characteristics, which is much more than styles. We would look for text and tables and equations and conditional text patterns, that sort of thing. And we would map those well, annotate those characteristics and map them to the target DITA. We would also be providing typically warning reports. So if it looks as though maybe some pre-conversion cleanup is required, we can hint at that as well. And then we would basically, essentially, sort of in the analysis, we would analyze how the size of the document. We would basically do a character count, and we operate on with something called conversion credits. So one conversion credit processes 1,000 characters, which say in FrameMaker might be a page, in Word it might be a page, that sort of thing. And we operate on a pay-as-you-use basis. So you buy conversion credits, preload your conversion portal with that, and then you're good to go. So once the charges have been accepted, we convert in real time. It's all schema-generated DITA. It's basically you can upload your content as and when you need to, and get your results back immediately. So you can refine those results using a rules editor. And this is a really key, important aspect of the Migrate system, that you can tweak the rules basically. ID teams can guard exceptions. You can easily configure new rules. You don't have to be a developer to do that. And you can reconvert as many times as necessary. It doesn't cost you anything extra to reconvert. And you can clone and modify rule sets. So you can just move along at your own pace in your own good time. And all the time, if you come across any problems, any issues, we're there in the background able to help. We can typically dip into your portal, access your portal, and help with any troublesome documents as well. So we provide essentially the support that you need to be able to get your documents converted, and then you'll get high quality sort of results because you're getting valid DITA every time. You can essentially sort of determine whether or not you want DITA topics, specialized topics, DITA maps, or book maps. If you're using FrameMaker, we can take FrameMaker drawings to SVG. We can also take equations to MathML as well. So this is the general way in which we work. I would say as well that we have some customers who are quite happy for us to use the Migrate portal on their behalf, and so in some cases it may be that they want what we would call an over-the-wall service, and we can provide that as well using Migrate in-house ourselves. But the key thing and the beauty of Migrate, I think, is that actually it's really very sophisticated. So we do achieve some very, very high levels of automation in the conversions that we undertake, and this can save a massive amount of time on any pre-conversion cleanup that might be necessary, or sorry, pre-conversion prep that might be necessary, or any post-conversion cleanup that might otherwise be necessary, and we can cut that right down by basically doing some very smart things with the conversion technology. So, Helen, if you could just talk to this for a moment and perhaps just indicate what those sophistications are, please.
Yes, thanks, Les. First of all, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm guessing no.
I can hear you okay. A little, maybe it could be a little bit louder. I can't hear you, Helen.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so this slide does have a listing of some of the things that sometimes we're told can't be done well automatically, but we find that they can, in fact. One of the things that is trouble when you're converting from a presentational format to a structured format, tables. Tables that have complicated column spanning and row spanning, they're trouble to try and convert by hand. It's laborious, it's time consuming, it's not fun. Migrate will do it automatically. So if you have a table in your input that has column spanning, row spanning, it'll come out exactly the same way in the DITA without us doing anything special to it. The code's already there. Of course, the flip side of the coin is that very often we find that a presentational format like Word or FrameMaker will often use tables just for layout, where in fact, we don't want a table in DITA at all. One of the most common ones would be notes that are often formatted in tables. But happily, with just one or two simple rules, we can identify those tables, strip out the table markup, and mark up the content inside correctly, so that once again, you don't need to do anything ahead of time to these in order to get the output correct. So tables are typically not a problem at all. The second thing is, with an automated conversion, what a lot of folks will do is they'll take a paragraph style and they will map it directly to the appropriate element in DITA. And we do that too, for sure, because you can get an awful lot done that way. However, we do find that it's not always enough. So for example, you may be using a numbered list style, and you may use that style when what you have is actually a numbered list, and maybe it's in a reference topic and you've got a list of parts or something. You may use that exact same paragraph style to indicate steps in a task topic, though. So it's not as simple as just going make this paragraph style into this element. But because our conversion is schema-driven, can tell. So if you say make this a step, and it shows up in a spot where a step is not allowed, it will know. It will fall back automatically to a numbered list at that point. So again, we have this context that we can leverage because we are schema-driven in the conversion. Again, you don't have to make that distinction ahead of time. Similarly, for inline styling, there are a number of things that we can use to help us identify and correctly mark up inline elements. So one of the most common in technical documentation might be a UI control. So very often we'll find that a UI control is a little piece of bold text in a step. So we can look for that. We can also look to see if the word preceding that is click or select. This will be a very good hint to us that this is a UI control. We can check to see if the word following is window, and then we'll know that it's a window title. So we have a number of things that we can use in that way to help us get these inline elements correct as well. We also do give you the ability to configure the structure of your map, whether it be a book map or a DITA map. So you can have either book map or a DITA map, or you can have an overall map and then submaps at any level that you choose. That's all controlled by the rules. You can nest your topics in a hierarchy within that map according to rules, so it's all within your control. You get to determine the structure of your map. And the last thing on my list is that we do also have access to information that might not be visible in your content flow. So for example, if you've got index markers, and they might be showing up in any of the input formats, Word, FrameMaker, RoboHelp, any of these, we can automatically convert those to DITA index terms. If you have conditional text, we can automatically map that to the appropriate DITA profiling attributes. Variables or other identifiable pieces of repeatable text, we can automatically convert to conrefs or keyrefs. Text insets or snippets, we would convert to sets of conrefs because they wouldn't necessarily be just a single element themselves. Last on the list is content that you might find in your master pages or the headers and footers of your documents. Sometimes there might be important metadata in there. We can access that and map that to metadata either at the topic level or at the map level.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Let's now move on to the demo, and I'll just assign you presenter.
Thanks.
Hopefully you pick up control okay.
It's taking its sweet time.
Do you have that, Helen?
Coming. It's
okay.
coming now. Yeah, it's just taking its sweet time.
Okay.
Here we are. Okay. So you should now see my screen.
Yes, that's fine.
Good. And so what you will see is the page of Migrate that you would see when you would first log into your Migrate portal. It'll have a listing of the documents that you've already got uploaded. Now you'll see here that I've got some of them uploaded a couple of times. In a production environment, you wouldn't typically do that because you wouldn't need to. Once you had uploaded the document, you could make as many changes to the rules as you needed to. You could convert and download the output as many times as you needed to till you were happy, without uploading again and without paying the credits twice. I just end up doing this as I prepare for a demo. So what I will do now is I will take you through the basic workflow of Migrate. We'll take a quick peek at the document we're converting. We'll look at the output that we get. And then we'll look at the rules that helped us get that output and how we could go about changing them to modify the output slightly. So the first thing I will do, of course, is to upload a document. And in this case, we're converting a Word document. So it's docx. The documents that we're using today are documents that have come from our own technical documentation for our OmniMark product. These are just little parts of it. They weren't originally written in Word, but we put them into Word so we can show it coming from Word. So there we have it. It's uploaded, and Migrate has already finished analyzing it. During the analysis, it's done a bunch of things. One thing that it's done is it's created an intermediate XML format from that docx. The XML format is a pretty flat format. It's only got about half a dozen elements, but it is preserving all kinds of properties of the Word document that we can use to set rules. So it's got things like paragraph styles. It's also got font weight and font style and margins and all sorts of things that we can use that we would use as human beings with our eye to determine what was going on in the document. We can use those same things to instruct the conversion. So it has done that. It has counted how many text characters there are in the document. So we've calculated 15,106 text characters. That comes to 15 of our prepaid credits. That's why we have this red 15 here. Some other statistics, they don't have any bearing on the charges. They're just for our information. We have an analysis with no messages, so there's no warning report here. If there were, it would be here. And it might include things like telling us if we had text boxes. Text boxes aren't a problem, except that occasionally the text in them might show up in a slightly different spot than you think it will. That's the kind of thing that you'll typically see here. Or, if you've got track changes on and you haven't accepted all your changes, we'll warn about that kind of thing, in case you want to fix that before you actually accept those credits and go ahead and convert. We have no messages, so our next step would be, okay, let's accept the charges. We'll pay that 15 credits, so now it's gone from red to black. I have 15 fewer over here in my remaining pool. I will assign some rules, and I've already got rules created for this document. You can see I have a whole slew of rules here because this is a demo portal. You would almost certainly not have that many rule sets on your portal. You'd have just what you need. And I'm going to DITA 1.3, and I think I'm going to bookmap in this case. Let me just make sure that's what I did. No, I think I did map the last time. Let's do map then. You can see again I have various targets, and your portal again would have just the targets that you need, including if it was a specialization, you'd have your own. So my next step now is to say convert. So Migrate is going to take that intermediate XML format that we created, the rules that I've got put in place, and the schema for DITA 1.3, some configurations to get my map the way I want it, and it's going to give me some DITA output. So the last time I converted this document, it took me 1 minute and 42 seconds. So it shouldn't take long. This is the document. Just a pretty normal Word document. It's got heading 1 and heading 2, a bunch of normal paragraphs. We've got steps, which is actually relatively unusual in a Word document, but I put them in. And we've got numbered lists. We've got some code, bulleted lists as well. So one of the interesting things in this one is that we have a bulleted list here and a bulleted list here. Logically, you'd think they're both going to come out as bulleted lists, but actually I'm going to want this one to be a definition list. So I'm going to have to create a rule that does more than say a list bullet style becomes a bulleted list. So those are the sorts of things that we'll be looking at doing in our rules. Okay, not quite finished yet. Rather than wait for it, I will download the one that I converted just before. Oh, it's done. Good, I'll go get that one then. So from our one pretty short Word document, what we will see in our download is a DITA file for each DITA topic and a DITA map. If we had any graphics in the document, they would have been extracted and included here as well. Equations would have come out as MathML. I'm going to just open this up in XML so we can have a look at our output. XML for no particular reason other than it's the one that I have. So here's our map. As you can see, we've got it nicely structured according to our heading levels. So here we have a task, so it's come out nicely as a task with steps and so on. We've got our OmniMark picked out here as a trademark. Put the plain text view on. So everywhere I've got the word OmniMark, I've got it coming out as a trademark, and the type being TM in this case. And here's my topic where I had the two different versions of the list. So I have my unordered list here, my bulleted list, and I've got my definition list here. And you'll notice that here I'm having it come out with the bullet, and here it does not have a bullet. And we had a colon separating these, and that's gone as well. So I'll just glance at some of the others. They're all coming out pretty well. So this is a concept, and we've got our command names here. So we've picked out some command names, some trademarks, code, obviously. It's a fairly straightforward type of document. There's not a lot of complex things here. However, so say I'm doing this conversion and I've got a bunch of documents like this. I have another document that I'm going to use these exact same rules on, and it's going to come out just perfectly. But I've got my trademark here, and I've got it listed as type TM. But in fact, OmniMark is a registered trademark. And so I need to change that so that it now will say reg here instead of TM. So I will go back to Migrate. Now, of course, I could do a global search and replace it everywhere. But just for our purposes, let's do it this way. So I'm going to open up the rules editor, and I'm going to modify the rule that made that into a trademark of type TM. Sometimes the rules editor hides behind. Here we are. Okay, so this is the rules editor, and what you are seeing is a representation of the input document, so it looks somewhat similar to the Word document. It's actually based on our intermediate XML format because it's the elements in that format that get the annotations that enable us to get the appropriate DITA. Over here we have the rules that are in effect. You'll see we've got a bunch here that didn't apply. That's okay, it doesn't matter. And down here is a place where we can either add new rules or modify the rules that we have. So typically what we'll see is, if I select this piece of text, over here I see a bunch of information about it. I know what its paragraph style is. We have all this other information that we extract from the Word, so margins and foreground colors and font size and all of those things. I can use any of those things to make sure I get the content that I'm interested in. In this case, I only really need the paragraph style. This is a nice, useful rule, though, because I have the paragraph style that's in this document, but I've also got some others that I might find in some other documents. Any of these will work and become the title of a topic at the outermost level in the map, and we're letting Migrate figure out the topic type. That's what unknown topic is. I could tell it be a concept. And we're giving it a file name that's including the name of the file it's uploaded and just that content. So the rule will have two parts, the part that identifies the text we care about and the part that instructs the conversion as to what this should be. So that's going to be a topic title. This is going to be a step. Again, so we're looking just here at how to identify the content. The style is step, the list style is decimal. We're making it a step, and we've got the nesting level 1. If the list style were alpha, I would make this level 2, and it would be a substep. What we care about right now is the rule that is making trademarks. So if I select my piece of text that I happen to know is a trademark, I can see over here where the rule is that has applied that. If I select this, it takes me to the trademark rule. And in this case, again, I'm lucky I've got my style indicating that it's a trademark, and my annotation says trademark, and the argument gives the type. So if I just change that and save that, and I'll just hit convert again. Go ahead, convert, there we go. And while it's doing that, it should take just over another minute, I believe. Take a quick look at the bulleted list rule. So this is finding all the list bullet styles. So here, this one rule has differentiated between the lists in this way. So we know that this one is a bulleted list item. Style is list bullet. This one's style is list bullet too, but we have made it a definition list. And we've done that simply by saying, okay, in the case of we've got a piece of text, a colon, and then something that comes after it, it's going to be a definition list. And we've just separated it out and said, this is the term, this is the definition, let's ditch the colon. So that's how we've done that. We've just used pattern matching to get the output that we want. command names. Again, we've used a little bit of pattern matching here. So we've got a bunch of phrase level courier new code. And we've just said if it's courier new and it starts with a hyphen, it's going to be a command name. Otherwise, it's just going to be a code phrase. So again, these are the sorts of differentiators that we can find pretty easily and create rules that are going to give us the output that we want. And there, that has finished converting. We can download that now. So this particular rule change is a relatively simple one, but occasionally you find that changing one rule can actually have a significant effect on the whole structure of the document. And it is definitely worth doing it in rules instead of going through after and making changes manually. So here's my new content. And you can see I've got the correct trademark type now. So it's pretty quick and easy to do that, which is one of the great things about Migrate, I think, is that you can make these changes that go through your entire document and your whole set of documentation when you convert it. Again, very quickly. So in this case, I've converted one of my documents. I have this other document that I've converted with the exact same rule set. The rule set is very reusable, particularly as I know that I've created these documents in basically the same way. So there's unlikely to be significant differences. If there are minor differences and something doesn't come out quite right in the second document, I can open up the rules editor and make some modifications and get my content to come out the way I want. I can reuse this rule set quite readily, quite easily, but I can also create a copy of it so that if I want to make something that's a little bit different, I can do that. So again, I have many, many rule sets here, but I'll find this one. I can copy this one, give it any name that I like. Now I have a rule set that is, at this moment, an identical copy of the original rule set. I could apply it to any document, open it up in the rules editor, make some modifications, and save it so that eventually I will have developed a new rule set without having affected the original one in any way. You'll notice also I've got what we think of as a basket here, which is simply a way of organizing the view. I have an awful lot of documents on this portal because it is a demonstration portal. So you can see I've got 38 pages worth of entries here. It's not convenient to see all of those usually. So we give you the ability to just refine the view of what you see, so you see the things that you are interested in. So I think that is pretty much what I want to show for Migrate. We are going to use the documents that we converted here when we go into Optimizer and do some deduplication of them.
Okay, thanks Helen, and thanks everyone. We had one question during that. I think it was answered really. We got it early on in the demo, but we sometimes receive unstyled Word documents. If there are no headings, for example, and they have just used font color and size to differentiate style, can rules be set up to recognize font and color for architecture?
I'm going to say yes, and I'll actually show a little bit of how we would do it.
I'm sorry, I don't think we have time to do that.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'll save that some other time because I'm just wary of the time. We've got 25 minutes left and we need to start moving on. So I think it'd be great to be able to come back to that. If anybody wants to arrange follow-up sessions, we can do that. But I think I'm just cognizant of the time that we haven't got right now. So
okay. I do talk too much.
All right. So let me actually take control. I just want to use a couple of slides. So I've got control now. I'll share my screen, and I'll go straight actually to Optimizer. So hopefully this is a summary of Migrate. Basically, sort of making life easier for the authoring teams, but taking control of conversion projects, and we can come back to this at the end. But basically, I want to talk about sort of once we've migrated the content, how do you keep on top of content reuse, having made the move to DITA? Actually, it's quite hard and quite difficult to do this. What we found in talking to our customers is that really you end up eyeballing reuse opportunities and implementing things on a manual basis. And because it's quite difficult to do that, it's painstaking. And reuse doesn't really happen as much as it should. So we have this wonderful motivation to go to DITA to get reuse. And then we find that actually in practice, it can be a real problem. That content can become inconsistent over time. So it might well be that an author actually, rather than reusing something through some conref, basically just copies and pastes and maybe does a slight alteration, and so quite quickly you can get little derivatives of a key topic, and this can really be quite dangerous. So it's a particular problem in highly regulated or hazardous environments. It provides potentially a poor customer experience if customers are coming into your portal to search on various things and they get half a dozen instances of the same topic. That can be very frustrating. So it is a problem. And this is what we saw when we developed Optimizer. And so with Optimizer, what we're doing is basically providing a deduping tool that basically helps to optimize content consistency and reuse. So who's it for? ID professionals, information architects, might call these people power users if you like. It's not for SMEs. And when to use it, typically as part of initial conversion project. So once we've converted content, say using Migrate, we could then actually use Optimizer to help dedupe that content. Alternatively, we can use it for the ongoing optimization of DITA content. So essentially, sort of give your content a bit of a spring clean or content audit, if you like, and tidy it up from time to time or on an ongoing basis. So with Optimizer, we're just going to begin testing in the next week or two, and we're going to be generally releasing it in Q2 of this year. So that's just a very quick introduction. So over to you, Helen, I think, at this point. Let me just say, basically, what it does do, it analyzes your DITA content collections. So Helen will have basically sort of converted that content from Word to DITA, and she'll be mixing that with some other DITA content collections that she has, I think from a FrameMaker conversion. We'll identify reuse opportunities at various levels. We'll basically be able to manually prioritize those reuse opportunities, and we'll make decisions on each. But this is the key, that DITA content will be deduped automatically once you've made those decisions, and conref libraries and DITA maps will be updated automatically as well. So this actually makes the whole process much more manageable. At the end, we provide these summary change reports and generate those. So without further ado, let me hand over to Helen again to talk you through Optimizer. So we'll assign control to Helen.
Okay. All right. So now what you are seeing is what you would see when you would log into Optimizer. And it's got a bunch of collections listed. What a collection is simply a bunch of DITA files that you want to compare to each other. The only thing that they absolutely need to have in common is they need to be the same version of DITA. So I've, again, preloaded this to a large extent just to save us a little bit of time. So the collection we're going to be working on, again, is the OmniMark documentation. And within this collection, I have a library topic, might be considered a warehouse topic, where I have stored the trademark that I'm going to conref all the rest of the trademark elements to. And I've got, this is the bundle. So a bundle being, again, just a bunch of DITA files, could have a map in it or several maps. They just happen to be uploaded together. These ones came from the conversion that we just did. And then I have this other group that are related documents that have come from a conversion from FrameMaker. So it doesn't really matter where they come from. They're all DITA now. And so this shows me the details of my whole collection. It is listing all the elements that it finds, and it's listing them just in the order of how frequently they occur. So I have more paragraphs than any other element in my collection. That's why it's first. We do it this way because when we are deduplicating, there are things we're going to have more interest in deduplicating than other things. Some things it's not going to make sense even to think about deduplicating. Other things it's going to be very important to deduplicate. Notes are a common one that would be useful to deduplicate. Hazard statements. This kind of thing is very important for anything that has an importance put on safety. It's very important to have these accurate and consistent. So deduplicating those would be important, whereas it might be less important to try to deduplicate just a phrase, because maybe that's hard to reuse after all. So there'd be various things that we will or will not care about according to our own reuse strategy. So again, I have analyzed some of these ahead of time just to save us a few seconds, but I do know that I do want to deduplicate my trademarks. So I've got 98 trademark elements, and I just hit the trademark and it's going to show up here any second. There we are. So I have already analyzed it. It takes a few seconds because each of those trademark elements has to be compared to each other trademark element. So the comparison takes a while. But you can see I have a whole whack of identical trademarks. So if I select that one, I can see that it's already in my library. So that's actually the reason I uploaded the library first, so that the first one I come to is already in the library. And so what I can do now is that one's already in the library. I can simply replace all of those others with a conref to that trademark in that library. That's automatically all done now. That's all I have to do. I can go back here, and now maybe the next thing I want to look at deduplicating might be command names. So again, I've analyzed these ahead of time, and I've got some that are actually completely identical and some that maybe are not quite identical. So we've got two comparisons here. The first comparison will count as a difference in white space or a difference in tags. So if something has a different attribute, for example, that will show up as a difference. But the content itself would be identical in these cases. So this is how many characters difference out of the total number of characters. So if I select this one, I see this is my command name in that particular one that I've chosen. And if I want to see what the differences are, I'm pretty sure it's just a white space difference. So sure enough, it is just a white space difference. So it's not really a significant difference, though that tells me that I might be missing a white space in my content if I eliminate it. But I think that I do want to just deduplicate all of these. So the first thing I have to do is make sure one of them is in a library. Now, I can extract to a library. But the only library I currently have is my trademark library. That's not what I want to do. So I can just create a library. And I will make it a reference. Oh, I have to give it a name. I do apologize. Okay, and my library is empty. Well, that's what I expect. So now if I go back here, back to my command names, I choose this one and I extract it to the library. So now that one is in that library, and I can simply replace all of these, the exact ones and the near ones. So I could go and do this for all the command names. I won't bother because really that's just going to take time unnecessarily. The other thing that people are typically going to want to be able to deduplicate if they can is anything of a topic level. So again, I've analyzed the concepts already, and I've got some near matches. They're exact except for things like tags and spaces. So let's look at this one. So this is the one I've selected. Let's get the differences with some of these. So again, the differences are highlighted in pink. And the difference is essentially the one I've selected has the trademark picked out, and the other ones don't. So I want to have the trademark picked out. So the one that I've chosen is preferable. So I can just go ahead and replace those. So if I go back here, I can now say replace near. The other thing that I can do, just to make things a little bit easier, I can go to this very topic and just change its location. So instead of my topic being in the desktop compiler, what I want to do is give it a new spot. I want to make it reuse. So that's going to be its new path. So that's the path we'll see in the maps when we download. Just so that then we'll have a folder of reusable topics. Just something that we might want to do. I'll go look at tasks. Trying to keep aware of the time here. So in this case, we don't have anything green. So there's nothing that we've considered just by a relatively arbitrary definition to be close enough. That's all adjustable, by the way, but close enough to be interesting. So if I look at this topic, and then I see this one that's not quite as close as we would think to be reusable, and we can see that what the actual difference is essentially it's the component name, concurrent processing versus single processing. So that would tell me perhaps I want to use a key there instead. It's got one other difference here. So it says OmniMark Development Toolkit here and OmniMark Studio for Eclipse here. Actually, this is telling me this one's a better one because that's more accurate. So I could decide, in fact, to deduplicate this and then go back in and put keys or conditional text here to get the output that I want ultimately. So even though that part won't get done automatically, it is helping me decide on what can actually be reused. Okay, so at this point I have done some deduplication, not all that much. There would be a lot more I could do. But let's download what we've got and we'll have a look. It takes a second or two to download because it's actually at this point that we are doing all that substitution. And minimize our outputs. Yes, replace it. And okay, so this is what we've got in the output. So we've got our trademarks XML that we uploaded. We've got the commands XML that we created. Look at that in TextPad. So there it is with just our command names, just the one that we actually deduplicated. We obviously could put lots and lots in there. We've got the engines folder, that's all the engines documents that we uploaded. The VM ones are there, and in our reuse folder we have the topic that we moved there as well. So that's there with its new name. And we have a report. So this has shown me how many exact matches we found. Now that is the exact matches of the elements that I actually analyzed. I didn't analyze all of them, so this is just the ones that I did choose to analyze. Same for near matches. The reuses are how many I actually did. Obviously I could have done a lot more, but that's what I did. This is a listing of all the replacements. It looks a bit intimidating, but essentially it's almost all. This 49141, that's the number of the trademark element, and that's replaced all of these other things that are trademark elements. And then we will have some that are, there's a few that will be, 49161, that was our command name that we deduplicated. And it will tell me which files have had these substitutions made in them, if I want to go and look for them. And then the file replacements, so that's where we've deduplicated the concept. It shows us which bundle it's come from and what the replacement is. So if I wanted to go and check this out, I would go and look in. So if I go in here, find my map. And here you can see I have my topic graph to that reuse folder with that new file name that doesn't have the numbering in front of it or anything like that. So it is a more reusable, friendly sort of a thing. And I could probably go to just about any of these and see a conref to my trademark. I say that, but that was not the ones that had it, so let's go here. Let's find it. Do it this way. Ha! Well, there's my command name reference anyway. Oh yeah, there's the trademark. So we've got the conref to the trademark and the conref to the command name in this file. So you can see that that's all happened automatically because we know those weren't there when we converted those documents. So obviously I just did a little bit there, but there would be much more that could be done. That's mostly what I needed to show. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them if we have time.
We haven't received any questions during the demo, but maybe if I move on with a couple of summary slides, and if anyone then has any thoughts that occur to them and want to let us know via the chat, then we can still have a couple of minutes at the end. So let me just take control again and share my screen. Good. So thank you, Helen, for the demo. Let's just move on. Basically, just to let you know that we do offer free trials for both Migrate and Optimizer. So for Migrate, if you go to our website, you'll be able to upload maybe a small sample of content, typically sort of 20 or 30 pages, upload it, and we'll be able to convert it. We'll run it through we'll run it through Migrate, and then we'll review the converted DITA results with you. That's typically how we engage with customers. And then with Optimizer, similarly, you can upload a small sample of DITA content, perhaps a couple of documents with a couple of maps that we can work with, and we'll analyze basically that content and run it through Optimizer and review the results with you. So if you're interested, please go ahead and upload your content to our site. Other than that, we're going to be at the CMS DITA North America conference this coming weekend, so that kicks off on Sunday, actually. So we'll be arriving as gathers on sort of Sunday evening, and the conference itself will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if any of you are there, it'll be great to be able to meet up. We'll all be there. That's from Stilo. And also you might notice that we're actually giving a presentation Monday morning on Author Bridge, actually. Patrick Baker, who heads up our development team, is going to be presenting with Mike Tosca of IBM at early Monday morning, I think. So perhaps if you want to see that, then please see us there. Otherwise, we'll be at LavaCon in October as well, and we'll be able to meet up there as well if you're interested. So I think that's really pretty much it, and I'd just like to thank you all for coming today. We welcome your feedback. I don't know if any more questions have come in the last minute or so. I'm being told not, but for sure, if you have any questions that occur to you that you'd like us to get back to you on, then please just let us know. Drop us a line, info@stilo.com, and we'll get back to you. So otherwise, thanks for attending today. Thank you, Helen, for your demonstrations. And again, thank you for your time, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye for now.